Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
In this issue we got 10 Gutrippaz for the Cruel Boys, and we'll be learning how to use armour in our games, and we'll be having a look through the issue and then playing the game that comes with it. So, having a look through the issue, we have some more background lore for the setting of Age of Sigmar. So we have some background here on the mortal realms themselves, and these are eight worlds, each made up of a different type of magic. And you can see 4 examples there. We have the realms of life, metal, light, and death. Essentially, at the centre of each of these realms, the magic is stable enough to allow creatures and mortals to live on them. And the further away you get from the centre, the more wild and unstable the magic creating in these realms gets, to the point where mortals just can't survive in them. And the magic that makes up the realms does actually affect the inhabitants of those realms. So note, say, on the realm of beasts, plants might actually start to walk and fight amongst each other the same way a beast would. And on the next page it goes over the sort of the stellar cartography of the mortal realms. So they float in what's called the etheric void, although only very powerful beings and deities have the sort of power to see the realms in the void. Mortals cannot perceive them in such a way. And they appear as sort of floating discs that orbit each other and amongst the cosmos arcane. And it also says things like the realm of light acts as the sun to the other realms, and it becomes nighttime when it orbits behind the realm of shadows. And also notes here the realms of chaos, which are sort of beyond the mortal realms, and as a sort of hellish dimension created from raw emotion, and you almost certainly would not want to visit them. And then in the background here on the Grand Alliance of Order, so one of the 4 Grand Alliances that the various factions have formed. And there's a sort of general overview here. The forces of Order want to make the mortal realms peaceful and a safe place to live. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're the good guys, though. And on the next page we see 3 of the Forces of Order that make up the collection for this magazine. So we have the Stormcast Eternals that we've seen already, Sigmar's chosen warriors, who often are the sort of the main bulk of the Forces of Order, fighting on the front lines. And if they die, their souls return to the realm of heavens to be reforged. And we have the Caradron Overlords, who are a Dwarden masters of the skies. They use a mixture of magic and technology to create great sky vessels and make heavy use of gunpowder, but not gunpowder in the traditional sense, and are industrious traders and warriors. And then we have the Sylvaneth, who are tree spirits that have risen up to defend the various forests of the mortal realms and have a general hatred those who would spread ruin and decay. And right down the bottom it notes some of the major gods. So we have Sigmar, the primary god of order. There's also Teclis, the god of magic, Alariel, the goddess of life, and Grumni, the great maker, who is the god of the Caradron Overlords, who was also instrumental in creating the Stormcast Eternals. And then their opposite number, the Grand Alliance of Destruction, which is the other Grand Alliance that makes up this collection, which are sort of the opposite to the Forces of Order in almost every way, where they like smashing things because smashing things is fun and is their primary way of worshipping their deity. And we have the 3 factions here, the Iron Jaws, who are the largest, most warlike of the Orruks, basically the sort of general big and burly, like hitting things types. They attack remorselessly and only stop to pick up any choice bits of loot. And we have the Cruel Boys that we've seen already, who are the most cunning of all the Orruks, and would rather prepare ambushes, use lethal poisons and traps to fight their enemies. And then the Gloomspike Gits, who aren't Orruks. They are smaller creatures, although just as cunning as the Cruel Boys can be, and making up for their diminutive size. And they have various large beasts that go into battle with them. Forces of Destruction worship the twin-headed god Gorka Morka, who is both cunning and brutal. Next page we have a record for the Gutrippaz, so this is like the Knight-Arcanum and the Cruel Boss we've seen before, so we can give their leader a name. We'll reveal their name when we see them in the game. It also notes their scare shields there. So these are it's basically just a shield with a horrible visage on it, crafted on it, to look like the various creatures that inhabit the swamps the Cruel Boys live in. And on the next page there, you can come up with a sort of unit name and keep track of any great deeds they do. And then we have a general name generator for the Cruel Boys to use for their collection. Pause the video and look at it if you want to read out all the names. On the next page there's titles for heroes and then names for units as a whole. And then we have the build guide for the Cruel Boys. Like the other models we've had so far, these are pushed together models. Well, there are quite a few of them this time. Just be careful to make sure you're getting the correct pieces together. You don't have to use glue, but you might find it useful to do so, just to make sure models don't fall apart if anything feels a bit loose. And it gives a little bit there about clipper safety as well. I do believe if you subscribe, you do get a set of clippers. Otherwise, you can get them from DIY stores or hobby stores or whatever. This might seem a bit intimidating because there's a lot of models, but there aren't very many parts for each one. They're only about 4 or 5 each. Again, just be careful. Make sure you're getting the correct piece for each gut ripper. Do them one at a time. Try not to put too much pressure on, say, these spears, because you can quite easily bend the plastic with these. Although they are fairly chunky models, so you don't have to be. They're not too delicate. But you can see last up there is the Cruel Boy boss, and they do have little notches in the bases for them to fit, and you can see the 10 of them there. But now I'll hand you over to Will, and he'll be teaching us some new rules, and we'll get into today's game.
So now we'll be heading into our game, and we've got 2 new rules to add to the ones we had from the first issue. The first is for armour saves, which is an additional step when making attacks, which allows the armour and shields and other protective equipment of a unit to potentially save them from injury. So you roll an armour save after your opponent has made a wound roll, and it might save them depending on what the dice roll is. We'll see that specifically in a minute. We also learn about units, different kinds of units. Some units only have a single model, like the Knight-Arcanum here. Some units contain multiple models, like these gut rippers that you see on the right. Generally speaking, individual heroes and monsters will be a single model, whereas troops will be in units of multiple models. And we have a general overview of using units here. So the unit will move as a group, so these 3 gut rippers are all moving in the same direction here. They also will fight as a group, making all their attacks at the same time. And they also take damage as a group. So here 3 wound markers have been inflicted on this Gut Ripper's unit. Each one has 2 wounds, so that kills one, and then another one it takes a wound as well. And here is our game, The Hunt. In this game, the Knight-Arcanum has been accosted by a unit of 3 Gut Rippers, presumably in the same ruins that we were in the previous issue. So we start off like before by moving into battle, where both units start in one of the outer circles on the board and move into the central one. But in this case, all the Gut Rippers have to move at the same time into the same circle. Then we have some detailed instructions about how to make attacks with the Gut Rippers. I won't go over this in detail again, you can pause it if you want to read it very closely. The main takeaway is that Gut Rippers, when they make their attacks, hit on 4s and wound on 4s. And they have 2 attacks per model, so that's 6 for the full unit. And the Knight-Arcanum also gets to make save rolls, so any successful wounds, the Knight-Arcanum player rolls additional dice. In this case, 4, 5 or 6 is a save, and that negates a wound, but failures means she will take a wound. So as you might have gathered, the Gut Rippers get to attack first in this game, and then this Knight-Arcanum will get to attack back. And like in the previous issue, she makes 3 attacks that hit on 3s and wound on 3s. But the Gut Rippers also have a save, but it's only on a 5 or 6 that they're successful. And as it says at the bottom, when you've placed 2 wound markers on that Gut Rippers, then it's been slain, you remove it from the battlefield, and it can't make attacks anymore. And obviously whoever has the last model standing is the winner. And like the previous issue, there are some victory pieces here that we'll read depending on who wins the game. So here's our battle map laid out, and we've put the models in the circles where they begin. And before we start the battle, we can introduce the Gut Rippers.
So we've got Gut Ripper boss Murkai leading the Storm Chasers with a Z.
And so stage 1 of the battle is to move our units into the central circle. So we'll do that. So we've moved into the central circle, and now we begin making our attacks. And as the magazine says, we'll start with the Gut Rippers.
So I've got 3 Gut Rippers, they have 2 attacks each, so I roll 6 dice, and I'm looking for 4s. So only 2 hits so far. Using 4s to wound, getting a wound.
But I do get to make an armour save, which is a 4+ for the Knight-Arcanum. I rolled a 4, so that damage is ignored, she does not take a wound. And she gets to strike back, she has 3 attacks, and I'm looking for 3s to hit. So we've got 3, and looking for 4s to wound. So just the 1.
Only a 5+ armour save for the Gut Rippers. No, so one of them takes a wound. We're counting down, so the red dice shows the number of wounds remaining. Put a wound on the non-boss Gut Rippers.
And it doesn't matter which ones take the wound in this instance, but later on it might do. So we'll put that dice next to him to indicate that one is the one that's taken a damage.
I don't know if it was mentioned in the magazine, but now that this Gut Ripper has taken a wound, the next wound that they take has to go on him as well.
But the Gut Rippers get to attack back again, and even though one is wounded, it still gets to make his full attacks.
So yeah, 6 attacks looking for 4s. Oh, they're angry now, I got 4 hits. Wounding on 4s, getting 3. Can we get through Borea's armour?
Needing 4s to save again. Oh, only saved 1, so she takes 2 wounds. So she has 6 wounds in total, so once again, we're marking that she has 4 left rather than taking 4. And she gets to strike back on 3s. 2 hits this time, on 4s, 1.
5 plus armour, no, so that wounded Gut Ripper will be killed.
Well, that does matter because now there are only 2 Gut Rippers left, they only get 4 attacks between them.
I'll do 4 attacks now, getting a single hit, and it wound, no.
Borea attacking back, gets 3 hits, and 2 wounds.
5 plus armour. Oh, didn't make either, so that will kill the other. Oh, that will kill off the other generic Gut Ripper, leaving just Boss Murkai left. He needs 4s, getting 1. Wounding on 4s, he wounds.
4 plus armour save. Nope, so Borea does take another wound, she's down to 3 remaining. Can she finish off the boss though? Well, she hits twice, and she wounds twice.
Can Murkai's armour help? Yes it can. He saves 1, so he's still alive on 1 wound. Gonna need to survive at least 1 more round though. Well, that's a cocked dice, so I'll re-roll that. We're going to get 2 hits. Wounding on 4s, 2 wounds.
Oh, 4s. Oh, she takes another wound, she's down to 2. Can she do the last wound though to Murkai? Well, only hitting once, so that's not a good start. She does do a wound though.
Roll 5 plus. No. Blech.
So the Gut Rippers are all killed, although it was a little bit close at the end. And like in the previous issue, we've got these little victory descriptions here. So in this case, the last Gut Ripper slumps in a pile of crushed bones and scorched flesh. The Knight-Arcanum does not revel in this victory, but instead she prepares a message to Azea. She will need reinforcements to meet this growing Orruk threat. But we'll have another go, and we'll let a Borea attack first this time. We've already moved the models into the central circle. So 3 attacks, which only hit once, and wounding on a 4, that's a wound.
5 plus. Nope. So 1 Orruk takes a wound. Then they hit back on 4s. Getting 4 hits. Yeah. And 4s. 3 wounds.
3 4 plus saves. Only made 1, so she's down to 4 wounds again. Hitting back. Hits twice. And wounds once.
5 plus. Nope. So we'll lose a Gut Ripper.
So 2 Gut Rippers left, but they get to attack back.
That's on 4s. Getting 2. And wounding on 4s. Getting 2.
2 more saves. Made 1. Down to 3 wounds remaining. Striking back. Only hits once. Wounds on a 4. Nope, no damage at all this round.
So back to the Gut Rippers with 4 attacks, getting a single hit, and wounding on a 4, does wound.
4 plus, yes, no damage either. 3s, getting 2. 2 hits wounding on 4s, 1.
5 plus armour. No, regular Gut Ripper will take a wound.
Both units on 3 wounds left now.
4 attacks from the Gut Rippers, again getting 1 hit. That wounds.
Did save this time. 3 attacks back, getting 2 hits and 4s. Just 1.
5 plus armour. Nope. So down to just Murkai again. 2 attacks, they both hit. And 1 wound.
1 save, made it. Hit only once again in return. Getting tired, I think. Did do a wound though.
5 plus armour. Yep, Murkai saved. He was the only one wearing armour today, I think. 2 attacks, getting a hit. And a wound.
Oh, yeah, just about saved it. Hit twice. Wound twice.
Oh, 5 plus armour? No. Borea wins again.
So another victory for Borea, slightly more convincing that time, but she did get to go first, I suppose. So I think we'll leave it there for the game for this issue. You can see how future rounds of this are likely to go. I think Borea possibly has the edge, but depends how she rolls. And we'll give you our thoughts on the issue and the game in just a moment. So that was issue 2 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Can't really comment too much on the game. Learning about armour saves is important. It is another step, part of the combat step, and it does make the games last longer. And armour is another way to show differences between factions. You can tell just from looking at it that the Knight-Arcanum is much more heavily armoured than the Gut Rippers are. Even though the Gut Rippers have shields, they don't really have any armour except the helmets and some bits of leather.
I think in the full rules she should actually have a 3+ armour save, and will in the next issue as well, actually, as it happens. But she won those 2 games, maybe it would have been even harder for the Orruks to win if that was the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not really worth trying to talk about the rules for the Gutrippaz, because the rules we have for them are so minimal. I mean, there's a reason why you get 10 of them. You almost certainly would never see 3 on their own, at least not without taking many casualties beforehand. But obviously, if we had a full unit of 10 against her, they'd probably win quite convincingly.
And it's a very basic set of the rules for units that we've got, but it does, again, give you the idea of what's going on. They will move around the battlefield as a group and fight as a group, and generally speaking, you will be rolling all their attacks at the same time. So it's a start. It gives you a very basic introduction to how it will work.
Yeah, and it also gives you the impression that a unit that only has 1 model is still considered a unit, even though it's an individual. So you don't get confused. We might get the idea that units that have smaller numbers of models will be individually more powerful as well. So it is not surprising that the killer boss is more powerful than a single Gutripaz. Obviously, he is the boss, so he's the biggest and the most powerful.
And I think the Gutrippaz models are pretty good.
Oh, I do really like the look of the Gutrippaz. I like the look of the Cruel Boys as a whole, possibly talking about later on, but I do like that they're sort of the cunning orcs as opposed to the big, burly, fighty, smashy orcs. It's not really something you saw previously in old Warhammer or in 40k so much. I like their sort of background where they use ambushes and they sort of think about things a little bit more. Orruks aren't supposed to be the brightest, but
and we will get some others Orruks as well later on who are a bit more of the sort of fighty types.
We do get some the Iron Jaws, as you might have seen in the collection,
who tend to be a bit burlier. These are a little bit more lanky, but they still look dangerous and like you wouldn't want to meet them in the dark or in a swamp or anywhere else for that matter. They still look pretty savage and vicious, which is what you want from.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that they just have shields with scary faces painted on them. Yeah. And they're called scare shields. It's amusing that there's things that actually work on the Stormcast as well, whereas the Stormcast are portrayed as these mighty heroes and wizards are apparently they're spooked by a scary face on a shield.
And then obviously the rest of the magazine, just continuing to introduce the lore. There's not a great deal to say about it at this point because it's still a very basic overview. And again, the building guide is very straightforward for these models, and we don't have any painting instructions yet, but they will come. Yeah,
these are pushed together models, as I would have said, so it's not too... I don't think you really get any spare parts either. I'm pretty sure you have to build one guy as the boss. I can't remember off the top of my head whether you do get a spare. So if you did get multiple copies of this issue, because it's actually pretty good value for money, getting 10 Gutrippaz for £6, I think it was, there is a separate kit that comes with the option for swords instead of spears as well. But obviously this is the push together ones that come from the starter set.
But anyway, I think that's it for this issue and this video. So if you enjoyed the video, then do feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Let us know what you thought. If you're subscribed to the magazine, let us know how you're getting on so far with building and painting the models and what you think of them. And if you're new to the game, also let us know how you're getting on with the game, playing the games. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.